Hello and welcome to another Tinto Maps. This time we are going to be looking at Scandinavia. This is, of course, where Johan is from. He is Swedish, so we're expecting some pretty good things here, I think. I do know that they have been working on, especially the Sweden or Scandinavian area for quite some time, as it is the first map that they did for Project Caesar. But though maybe it has had revisions after more areas have been made and brought up to that kind of tempo. But we will get into that. But before we do, if you wouldn't mind just dropping me a sub, that would be fantastic. You get to stay updated on everything coming out of Project Caesar, and I get a sub, so it is a win-win. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today we'll talk about the Scandinavia region. Part of it was the first maps we drew for Project Caesar back in early spring of 2020. So it's now, of course, midsummer of 2024. So this has been, the game has been worked on for 4 years now. So that is, I feel like quite a while. I do know that some games take a bit longer, some games don't take as long. When it comes to Paradox, there isn't any set amount of time, so we can't really make any determinations on release date based on that. For example, the earlier Paradox games were made roughly in a year and then shipped, whereas lately, Victoria 3 took like 6 years, 7 years. Crusader Kings 3 just a little bit shorter than that. So it's really difficult to make any predictions based on that. Today I'll be looking about the Scandinavian Peninsula, including Denmark and the Kola Peninsula, which are not a part of Scandinavia according to many people. The Scandinavian Peninsula cuts off here, basically, and if I said anything else, my Finnish wife would not be happy. We're not allowed to say that Finland is part of Scandinavia. It's just not, you're not allowed. But I guess we could say we're looking at the mainland Nordic countries, perhaps. Though with Denmark included, I don't even know if that counts. Greenland and Iceland we looked at in a separate map talk. Iceland especially, I saw a very, very good post on the forums, basically arguing why the southern coast of Iceland should in fact be, normal terrain where people are able to live and work, and instead of a wasteland, which it looked like it currently was. Really good map thread, and I hope that the devs have seen it and taken it on board, because it was pretty well sourced. But anyway, let's have a look at Scandinavia. It's only 5 location-based countries at the start of the game. Denmark, who's in a bit of a crisis at the moment, and their vassal Schleswig is in the south. On the peninsula proper, they have Sweden and Norway, who are in a union at the moment as they share the same king. Scania was sold off to Sweden by the Danes 5 years before the start of the game. There's no need to show dynasty map, as Denmark does not exactly have a ruling king at the moment, and the rest is ruled by Magnus IV of the Bjelbo dynasty. Fair enough. Obviously, in EU4, Sweden owns basically all of Finland. It's totally colonized, and there's nothing to colonize in this entire area. That is not the case here, and you will have to, if you're playing as Sweden, colonize this area yourself. We do need to have a look at what colonization mechanics are like, though, because in EU4 this wouldn't work. This would be basically, Denmark going and grabbing big chunks of it, or what have you. So we'll have to wait and see what those mechanics are looking like. But anyway, let's have a look at the locations. Northern Scandinavia, bits of northern Finland, bits of northern Sweden, northern Norway, looking fine. I don't see anything too terribly off-putting. The difference in location density in northern Sweden compared to northern Finland is very apparent, but I think more people live here than up here, so I guess that makes sense. Large wastelands in Norway, in between Finland and Karelia, and in Kola as well. And I do find it very interesting that we have these wastelands in the center of locations. They do literally nothing. I don't understand the point of them other than looks on the map. Because if you've got an army that's marching from Jukkasjärvi to Trundes and they march through here, this doesn't stop them at all, right? The location is completely surrounding the wasteland. But okay. These wastelands, they're not mountains. They're also not lakes. I guess maybe marshes would be the most fitting bit for it. These ones here, though, in Finland would definitely be lakes. Because Finland has, I think, the second or third largest amount of lakes in the world. I think it's third. And it's got like 11,000 of them. So I don't think all of them are going to be shown, but maybe the largest ones. Moving into southern Finland, you can see a bit more of the lakes that I was talking about, and lots of land here. It's very interesting, right? Of course, Sweden has colonized the southern coast of Finland. So this area here, many of these provinces are in Swedish, right? Helsinki, Ekenäs, Åbo, Korsholm, like home being very, Swedishy. Ulfsby, obviously these are in Swedish. Not all of them though. Yanakala, that's definitely not. I think that's probably the only one I can see that is definitely not. But either way, it's very interesting to see that, right? Obviously, it makes sense that these places would be written in Swedish. But then we go into the uncolonized area, and we can see, of course, there's a lot more in the way of Finnish place names. Jyväskylä, Viitsari, Saarijärvi. These are obviously very Finnish names, and it makes sense because Finns are the ones that occupy this area. But there are also some uncolonized Finnish areas that are in Swedish. Karleby and Kaustby and Pedersöre. These are Swedish names, which I guess is maybe they do have more of an influence from Sweden, even if they haven't been colonized by them yet. But I do find it a little bit interesting. Of course, this area in modern days is heavily Swedish speaking, so maybe they just didn't have names for it back when it was more Finnish before it was colonized. But I just found it interesting. It's something I wanted to point out. Moving on to Norway, though, it's looking pretty cool. I love the I forget what the name of this geographic feature is called. The balls. It's bloody fjords. It's all the fjords. I love that. I don't know why I couldn't remember the name of it, but hey, lots of fjords. Love that. Looks great. There's obviously a large mountain area with Eidfjord being a mountain pass between them. Very cool. Not really too much in the way of things to complain about here. I think it looks good. The location density is very nice, especially in the area north of Oslo. Very, very cool indeed. Moving on to northern Sweden as well. The province density here is looking quite nice. We've got Stockholm down the south. You can see, of course, there is a road here as well. And then all the way up in the north, we have Umeå. I've been here for a wedding. It was very nice. But yeah, no, looking pretty nice there. And then we go to Denmark and southern Sweden. And you can see the province density here compared to the rest of Scandinavia is pretty much the highest, but it also has the highest bloody province density and population. So yeah, no, makes sense there, I think. While Scandinavia has a lot of locations, you have to remember that it's a huge area. Together with Cola and Karelia, it's the same size as France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and the Benelux put together. The size of locations are smaller in the south, particularly where the population was and still is relatively bigger. I think that makes sense. I think that's fine. I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing here for location density. Although I will say we have maybe our first example, probably not the first example, one of the examples of a location in EU5 being the same size as a province in EU4 with no changes. And that is, of course, the lovely island of Bornholm, which is called something different. It's called Hammershus now. That's really interesting. I love that. But anyway, moving on to the provinces. Again, more density in the more populated south than the less populated north. I guess that just makes sense. Of course it does. More of these provinces are a little bit more recognizable to EU4 players. Like Österbotten was a province in EU4, same as South Nyland, of course. Whereas now these are, the state level, the area level. But yeah, you're not allowed to look at this bit. Don't even try and look at this bit. This is not for the viewing pleasure. They tried to follow some historical, traditional province borders here, but some ended up too big, like Småland, Lapland, and Österbotten, which are cut into pieces, and some are just too tiny to matter. I wish they had time to write up a history about each province here, but they'll just add a few fun tidbits. Satakunta, which is the big Finnish name, is named in Finland like the old regions of Svetiod, which were divided into hundreds. It was also referred to Björneborg's Len, named after Björneborg, which is Pori in Finnish, a town founded by Johan III when Ulfsby was no longer accessible from the sea. The regiment from the area was the last Swedish army regiment that has ever won a battle inside Sweden, and their military march song is, I think, what every Finnish citizen wants to play repeatedly on TV during the Olympics. Which is... I mean, that is definitely referencing the Finnish national anthem, which is interesting because the national anthem of Finland, the lyrics of it were written by somebody who is different from the guy who did the anthem-y bit. The lyrics were by a guy called Johan Ludvig Runeberg, who was Swedish-speaking. And the music itself was by a guy, if I remember rightly, began with a P, but I can't remember the name. Fredrik Pacius, who is a German-Finnish composer. So I'm not sure what Sweden has to do with that, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Pacius also wrote the anthem, or their march song was also used by that Swedish regiment. I don't know. Småland, which was divided into Tjoharad and Kalmar Län here, should really be referred to as Småländerna, as there were 12 small countries there, compared to the 3 other much larger countries of Svealand, Östergötland, and Västergötland. And now, why is Östergötland not containing Kinda? No idea. Moving on to the topography, and as you would expect, Finland, exceptionally flat. Like, so unbelievably flat. It was funny that back a few years ago, for the 2017 100th year birthday of Finland, it was considered by the Norwegian Parliament to gift over one of their minor mountain peaks up in the very north here, in order to basically give Finland a new highest bit of land in their country, because Finland is just exceptionally flat, like very, very, very flat. It didn't go through. I think Norway didn't do it because it was illegal in their constitution to give away land, so it never went through, and Finland doesn't have any mountains. It's just real flat and lots of lakes. That's basically Finland. But yeah, as you can expect, lots of mountains in Norway and flat everywhere else. That's just the way of it. It's mostly flatland. I went by the rule that if the peaks are less than 500 meters, it's flatland, and you need to have over 1,000 meters and rather uneven to be a mountain. Norway's interesting here. We do have a lot of impassable areas in Norway, making this one of the most fun parts to play in. Cool. Moving on to vegetation, forest and woods. That makes sense. That makes sense. Lots and lots of forest and woods in Finland. Sweden's got a little bit more grasslands, some farmlands, and there's sparse terrain up in the Norwegian and curling around Finnmark. Very cool. Some farmlands in Denmark, Scania, and Jutland, but the rest is basically a big forest. And up north, it's even worse, of course. The climate, that tracks. That tracks. It is currently summer where I am in Finland right now. So it is kind of hot. But yeah, it does snow a lot in the winter, like a lot. It's Arctic, definitely. Yeah, I vibe with that. That makes sense to me. Bits of continental there as well, and oceanic around the Norwegian coast, and a bit of the Danish peninsula as well. There's a reason he moved to Spain. Fair, fair, fair. Although I would argue that right now, this moment, I'd rather be here than in Spain, because Spain's probably like 30 something degrees, and we're sitting at a very too much 24-ish. So I'm happy not being in Spain right now. Maybe in the winter I would rather be in Spain. For cultures though, we have Swedish is already up the coast where they have not colonized. Is this maybe some kind of indication on how the colonization system is going to work then? Because if we go back here, Swedish isn't here. So colonization has already begun. Colonization has already begun before there is actual ownership of the locations by the Swedes. That is very interesting. I think that is worth a bit more of a deep dive on. Was there private colonization going on before the Swedish government was like, okay, yeah, now we own this area? But that is very, very interesting indeed. The culture is, I mean, it's more than 50% Swedish at this point. So the fact that the Swedish government, the Swedish state, does not claim it as owned by Sweden, despite there being, colonization there to the point where it is Swedish, is certainly very, very interesting. We also have the Sami, Kven, the Tavastians, the Savoynians, Karelians, Bjarmians. Very cool, very cool. I'm liking it. There's even, I think this is Swedish minorities, even though it's owned by Denmark as well. I think there's a little bit of Finnish minorities there as well. But very cool. I like this map. Norway sitting pretty over here is like, nah, all of our cultures are basically just, we own it all. And they're starting to spread into the Sami area as well. But yeah, very cool. Love to see the culture map. Most of the northeast is still Sami, and the Finnish tribes are not unified into the more Finnish culture. Decided to call them modern Meänkieli with their more ancient name of Kven. We've also still have Gutnish on Gotland, but the Norwegian, Danish, and Swedish cultures have been becoming more monolithic already. Fair enough. As for religions, Catholic, we've got Sami, Shamanist, and then the Finns follow Suomenusko, which literally just means Finnish religion. There is a single Norse province. Based. So very based. There is a Norse province. This is, clearly we can return Scandinavia to Norse as it always should have been. This is the challenge. This is what we need to see happen. Can we revive Norse in Sweden based on a single location of Norse? It's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna make it happen. But yeah, nothing other than that. Nothing too surprising here. Yeah, Finnish are mostly Catholic, but the Sami, Tavastian, Savoyna, Bjarmian, and Karelians mostly still following their old pagan beliefs. There's still some Norse people in the forests of Dalarna and Vestmanland. ... You can infer from this that he means that you can return all of Sweden to Norse. Return them to the old gods. It's gonna happen. The old gods must be embraced. As for raw materials, yeah, that tracks. That definitely tracks. Lumber in just a whole lot of Finland. There's a lot of forests. It just is. There's just a lot of forests. It makes sense. Lots of fur as well. Wild game. Makes sense. Anything surprising? There is the Stora Kopparberget, the copper mine of Dalaskogen. Makes sense. Lots of fish along the coast. Lots of stone. Bits of copper and iron. Yeah, I think this is pretty reasonable. Finland is not going to be a place that you want to own if you're looking for a lot of different types of goods. But if you're looking for cheap lumber or just a lot of lumber, then this is definitely something that you might want to acquire for yourself. I don't see any medicaments. Yeah, I do. I see medicaments. I see medicaments right here, here. I can see more medicaments in this map than I can see in any of the other maps, for sure, clearly. Loving that, for sure. As for markets, it's all part of the Riga market and then the Lübeck market. We have yet to see rivers play a big role in markets. They're still working on that, I think. So I'm not sure what kind of rivers would make sense for here. There are no like really colossal big rivers in this area, but I think if you're looking for rivers to make more of an impact, then that will come in time. But yeah, Riga and Lübeck make sense. It's divided by the rich markets of Lübeck and Riga. A strong Scandinavian country will probably want to set up their own unified market, maybe in Stockholm. Might be the idea. As for population, we have 711,000 in Denmark, 611,000 in Sweden, and 469,000 in Norway, with Scania having a little under 200,000. Not much there to be surprised about. And then the locations, oh boy, that is not a lot. That is not a lot. In the hundreds. Yeah. Fair enough, but like still, wow. I mean, Finland today has a population of 5.5 million, I think. So to go from this to that, very impressive. Very impressive. Very, very impressive, clearly. Then Norway, populations, still see some areas that have less than 1,000, but most places are breaching the 1,000 mark. And then southern Scandinavia, of course, having a lot higher populations. I like nice round numbers as estimates, but the team I hired for content design are madmen and wanted the distribution to feel more organic. For the far north of Scandinavia, we know that people are semi-nomadic, and that some people live there, but if it was 100 there, 250 there, or 20 there is just guesswork. Yeah, that's fair. But I definitely do think it should be... take away some of the hundreds. Also take away some of the 33s, because sure, while it looks better than 100, having so many that have ending in 33 is also just a little bit weird. And now let's end with a quote from the greatest of poets. This is from Dobeln. Jag vill jag skall bli frisk, därför prutas. Jag måste upp om jag I greven låg. Lys hör ni hör kanorna vidjutas. Där avgörs finska harens återtåg. So in English that would be I shall be well, it shall not be bargained for, I must rise, even if I lay in the grave. Listen here, you hear the cannons at Utus. There the Finnish army's retreat is decided. That's rude, Johan. You could have done something that wasn't anti-Finland for me. Very rude. Very rude indeed. But, I don't know. Maybe they could have went with a poem from... Maybe they could have went with a poem from Runeberg. You know, he Swedish speaking and you know did the poem for, or the lyrics for Finland's national anthem. So we could have unity there, united. But no, you decided to be rude and mean to Finland. Very, very rude. But anyway, next week we got Germany, which is obviously a lot of people have been waiting for. They've been wanting it for quite some time. As it's kind of the area of the map that is it's the gap in the map. So getting Germany is going to be very, very important to filling out Europe. I think it's one of the last maps that we need to fill out Europe. And yeah, I think that's going to be very much what people will want to see. So That is it for this video, though. I want to thank you all very much for watching. If you have any comments about the Scandinavia region, maybe you are from Scandinavia or Fennoscandia, one of the Nordic countries yourself, and you have some things to say, leave them down in the comment section below. I will leave a link to this forum thread as well in the description, so you can go and watch it. And yeah, we'll be back on Sunday, unless there's something else that comes up, with the comments from the devs under the Wednesday and Friday threads. So I will see you guys on Sunday. Toodaloo. Bye-bye.